We have such crazy subjects going on with what the war is bringing us today. Ultimately, we have a lot of points to go over, and I just want to say so far, first and foremost, thank you so much. If you're just joining me, just coming into the stream, I welcome you, and we're going to be talking about Israel and Iran. Again, we're going to be updating you on some of the crazy stuff that is happening within the news, and again, everything that is just going on is such an insane time to live in, because we're looking at all of this, we're looking at all the data, and we're going to see what exactly is going to happen next. So this deal, this sort of war that is happening, it's not a sort of war, it is a war. It's an all-out war with Israel and Iran. And ultimately, we know as of right now that Israel has completely, really just starts to dismantle the octopus, right? Because the head of the octopus, because its tentacles are all over the Middle East with the proxies that it continues to use to destroy Israel. And so the questions that I want to ask you are, what do you think is the next move? Will the U.S. strike Iran? What happens to the Ayatollah Khamenei if he is removed? And should the U.S. get involved in another regime change? These are very important questions to look at when we are talking about this war that is happening, because does the U.S. want to find themselves in another quagmire? Because if we just sort of take a look at some of the information from what we know about the last regime that was in charge of the Persian people, really they are the Persians. The regime at the time was under the Shah from 1941 to 1979 and was considered a key ally in the Middle East during the Cold War to counter Soviet influence and secure access to Iran's oil resources. With the downfall of the Shah came the new Islamic Republic under Ayatollah Khomeini, Khomeini. Today, we find ourselves in yet another position, another difficult situation. Do we conduct another regime change? Do we let the people of Iran decide? Does the United States get involved in the elimination of their nuclear program by striking the Fordow fuel enrichment plant? This is one of their most heavily fortified, protected nuclear facilities. It houses advanced centrifuges capable of enriching uranium to high levels, potentially up to weapons grade. Now, there's a report that they accidentally went over their enriching levels, which is funny. How do you accidentally do that? Unless you're intentionally trying to really cause havoc. But otherwise, I think this is quite important to look at and analyze with regards to everything that is happening. So the reported next step of the U.S. is they're currently moving a strike force into position in order to conduct the strike on the Fordow plant. We are the only ones really capable of doing so because of our B-32 stealth bomber, that crazy stealth airplane that looks like a bird. It's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's Superman. Carries up to two 30,000-pound bunker busters. Luke, you say Iran don't want the smoke, never has. Us Americans don't want war with Iran either. Exactly. Because this is going to be, it's not going to be good, but here's the thing. Israel has really diminished their capabilities, especially as of late. They're actually begging for mercy. They're begging the surrounding Arab nations to ask the United States to come to a deal, because apparently some of the posts that I'm going to show you, Trump has said to the Supreme Leader, this is what we've seen so far. One post says unconditional surrender. And the second here, it says, we know exactly where the so-called Supreme Leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We're not going to take him out. And the word there is that's blurred out is kill. At least not for now. wild. But we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, what do we make of that? They clearly know where the position of the Iranian leader, that's Ayatollah Khomeini, and he's in hiding, of course, in a bomb bunker, whatever. We have the more than capability to destroy the bunker that he is in and eliminate him completely. But then that brings in the problem of this regime that is going to be changed out. Do we want the regime to be changed out? Now, before I get to the previous leader of Iran, the Shah, he comes out with an interesting video. I want to show you one more tweet from Trump, Truth Social. It says, Iran should have signed the deal. I told them to sign. What a shame and waste of human life. Simply stated, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. That is interesting. So something big is brewing in the Middle East because we already see, as I mentioned before, the convoy, the strike force is in position to strike at will. The reports are also that the U.S. has complete control of the airspace in Iran. So they must be pooping their pants at this point. Their knees are buckling at this point. Say our bunker busters are getting old. We need to rotate stock. I'm not sure much about that, but it says, Luke B, you say, maybe I'm getting old, but how about we just all get along? Yeah, for sure. That would be most certainly the ideal position for us to take. But otherwise, the Middle East is really a sticky situation. Iran doesn't want Israel to exist, and Israel has proven to itself that it can exist because it's self-sustainable. But not only that, it's a nation that was given to them by God, and they will never be uprooted again as they were exiled from their land during the exilic period of what we read about in the Old Testament that talks about this time in history where the Babylonian Empire came in, the Medo-Persian Empire came in, and some others that decided to remove the Jews from their land, or rather separate them and put them in various places and just make a complete mess out of Israel. Some of them were taken into exile outside of the land. Others, there's so much history there that we need to really, I can't read spaghetti, gosh. Chat is crazy. So crazy stuff here, but there was at one point, this post that says, this post is from Iran. I mean, maybe it's the Ayatollah commenting in this video. How did he make himself here? Maybe he should not be revealing his location by commenting on a YouTube video. Where are you located exactly? Should have never saved the Jews from the Babylonians. You know, Iran and Israel have, which used to be Persia, but the regime changed. They changed the name to the Islamic Republic. There used to be a great relation with Israel and the people of Persia. And so, when we get to this next video here, this is the previous Shah who is talking about something quite interesting with regards to this best opportunity to topple the Iranian regime. This is exiled crown prince. Islamic Republic has reached its end and its process of collapsing, and is in the process of collapsing. Khamenei is like a frightened rat. He has gone into hiding underground and has lost control of the situation. What has begun is irreversible. The future is bright, and together we will pass through this sharp turn in history. In these difficult days, my heart is with all the defenseless citizens who are harmed. Can't see what that dang freaking... What does that say? Gosh. It says, I have fallen victim to Khamenei's warmongerings and delusions. For years, I've tried to prevent our homeland from being consumed by the fire of war. The end of the Islamic Republic is the end of its 46-year war against the Iranian nation. The regime's apparatus of repression is falling apart. Now, here's the thing. If you guys remember who was known as the Butcher of Tehran, this was Ibrahim Raisi. He was known to do so many things to persecute the people of Iran who didn't follow the very specific laws that they had in place. These are not like laws that you break a traffic light, whatever. None of that. It's like women who aren't wearing their hijabs. And I think there was a big story that broke out the time that he murdered her, and her name and her face was plastered everywhere. And then people had put posters on the floor, and people were stepping on them. Because the thing about the shoe in the Middle Eastern culture, if the bottom of your shoe is pointing towards any of these people, right? You're crossing your legs, you're sitting down crossing, and the bottom of their shoe is pointing towards somebody is considered disrespectful. And if you're throwing a shoe at somebody, that's even more disrespectful. So people had plastered these pictures and images of Ibrahim Raisi on the floor, calling him the butcher, and people, there's footprints all over it and so on and so forth. But otherwise, he had died in a airplane crash. He was going through the intense terrain, I believe, in Iran. I forget where, but the terrain was so bad that the pilot trying to navigate had not realized, looking at his instrument clusters and relying on his basics in order to get out of the sticky situation they were in. So anyway, let's continue on with the video. Something about a nation uprising to put an end to the nightmare once and for all. Now is the time to rise, talking about the Iranian people, to reclaim Iran. So, really interesting. In a later part of the video, he talks about the fact that be ready for him, as if he's coming back. Really interesting. Billy, thanks so much for being here, man. Glad to have you here. I know it's late. God bless you. So, we find ourselves in this crazy, crazy position here. And as we continue on, I want to take a look at the power of the U.S. bunker busters. Because the strike force is now moved into position in order to strike at will at the call of the president in order to destroy the Fordow fuel enrichment plant. So here's a video that I love this channel because they really break it down. They really break stuff down very easily to understand. So here we go. Let's take a look at this bunker buster animation.
This was one of the most daring missions ever undertaken, an Israeli operation that infiltrated deep into the heart of Iran. The ground operations have been meticulously planned once in advance and unfolded in several strategic stages. The first stage involved launching spike missiles to eliminate Iran's anti-air defense systems. The second stage saw the secret establishment of drone bases within Iranian territory. These bases were positioned to target the formidable S-300 air defense system. In the third stage, Israel launched airstrikes using bunker buster bombs aimed at key nuclear facilities, namely Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. These nuclear sites are heavily fortified, buried deep underground, with bunkers estimated to be as tall as 6 stories. While these strikes caused some damage to the surrounding infrastructure, they did little to harm the deeply buried core facilities. To breach such depths, Israel would require the US-built GBU-57, a massive ordnance capable of penetrating over 8 stories underground, delivered by the stealthy B-2 Spirit bomber. More details all in the video ahead.
Ads. So what do you guys think so far of this whole situation that's going on in Israel and Iran? Because we're seeing this wild war unfold, and who's going to come out on top? I know Israel will. They have the backing of the US, even though verbally there's been a lot of misconceptions and a lot of ideas saying that, from media talking about the fact that Trump said no, that they don't agree to this, and Benjamin says yes, that, we're in agreement, we're in talks. The thing is, the US and Trump and the administration are saying they don't want to get involved. They don't want to say that they're involved because they don't want Iran to strike any of the American people. The assassination attempt, or not the assassination attempt, but the proposal to assassinate the Iranian leader was denied by Trump because he said, essentially, have any Americans been killed? No. At least not recently. Previously, have they done that? Yes, they have. But otherwise, we see what's happening today. And let's continue on with this video, because this is going to give us more detail as to what exactly is going on with the bunker busters, the animation, the style of it, and how it's
supposed to. Apart from Israel's previous strikes, whether in Syria, Iraq, or even during clandestine missions inside Iran, was the unprecedented fusion of on-the-ground infiltration, domestic infiltration, and high-precision aerial strikes. This wasn't just another isolated attack, it was a meticulously coordinated assault aimed at dismantling Iran's military infrastructure from within, delivered in a single synchronized blow.
Now, this map is very accurate, because if we look at the targets that Iran has, Iran versus the IDF targets, okay? These are the targets that we've seen. With all this information, it says the IDF's targets, it's talking about the places where there are nuclear scientists, nuclear facilities, military commanders, air defense systems, surface-to-surface missiles. And then we have Iran's targets, which is homeschool civilians. We saw the video footage of the ballistic missiles firing into Tel Aviv, civilian, heavily dense populated area. So the radical, it's crazy, but the targets are completely different. Iran wants to do as much damage as possible. Israel wants to be very strategic, very precise in what they need to target in order to save themselves from any type of destruction from Iran doing what they are trying to do, what they seek to do. You say Iran was never supposed to have nuclear anything, exactly. But the deal that was made and renewed by Biden was no good. And we see that this is nonsense. By the way, you say it's AI slop. This is not AI, actually. This is something that he animates. His channel is called, I don't know if it's Al Tali or AI Tali. AI Tally. I'm not sure exactly. Whatever. Technically, you can pronounce AI as I, but otherwise, it would be iTally. So,
for months leading up to the operation, Israeli operatives were embedded deep inside Iranian territory. Working in absolute secrecy, Mossad agents smuggled precision-guided missile systems into the country. Among them were Rafale Spike NLOS non-line of sight missiles cleverly mounted on mobile platforms and hidden inside civilian vehicles. These launchers were strategically placed near critical Iranian military assets, including surface-to-air missile batteries and mobile launchers scattered around Tehran. Hidden in plain sight, they sat silently in inconspicuous locations, waiting for the signal.
Wait, I'm so confused. What are you guys talking about exactly? You're saying the thing over his face, I thought it was AI. No, that is an actual image. You say, am I an Israeli supporter? Of course I support Israel. Do I support every action of Israel? No, not necessarily. I think it's very complicated, the geopolitics to, well, rather not the geopolitics, but the politics of what happens in Israel and the types of things that are done with regards to the people and so much of that stuff. I mean, I'm not very well versed, but I do know the sort of geopolitics politics in the region because of what the Bible says regarding Israel and the stance that they should take and the stance that they ought to uphold because of the declarations that are made to Israel and about their existence. And so ultimately, I do support Israel's existence. And I do condemn the actions of Iran trying to use their proxies and use their own weapons, their own money, their own everything in order to really destroy and dismantle Israel at all costs, when Israel just wants to seek peace. He said, I just thought your channel was AI because when I first got here, the image was covering your face and looked weird. No problem. I get how that is because there's so much AI that we just don't even know what the heck is happening. I could be AI right now. I could be an AI live. I start acting like a robot. Anyway, it says, you take out your enemy's weapons, communications, and leadership. What do you have? What do you have? U.S. shouldn't help. Exactly. I think we don't need to be involved. And there's actually reports that they want to stop Israel. It's a thought and an idea that they don't want the U.S. to fund, or not fund, but supply Israel with any weapons. They don't want them to be involved in anything. That brings up a bigger thing. I said Netanyahu didn't start the war. He is defending his country, exactly, his culture, and preventing any opportunity for the enemy to strike back. Exactly right. Rational gamer.
When the aerial assault finally began, those concealed launchers sprang to life. Remotely activated, the missiles fire with surgical precision, striking multiple air defense.
So this is a breakdown as to what exactly Israel did in order to dismantle the air defense system, because we know that when Israel went to attack Iran, what they did was, right, he's talking about the Mossad, how they brought in and they smuggled in drones in order to complete and conduct their operations. The Mossad did this in order to remove any threats that might come when Israel strikes. The strike that they did, they lost not one airplane, not one fighter jet that went in and struck Iran very meticulously.
Several months. The fact that such a facility could be built and operated undetected so close to Tehran revealed the extraordinary...
Unknown sources say, do you think that World War III will start soon? That's tough. That really is tough, because the U.S. is trying to stay out of any type of war, and ultimately it won't be good news if Iran strikes any type of American embassy, American civilian, anything like that. Hamas did the smart thing in releasing American citizens that were hostage, either Israeli Americans or Americans that were captured during that time. They did the smart thing in releasing them because they don't want any smoke from the U.S. And I think that was probably under the directive, because they've held them for so long, they don't care. But I think that was under the directive of the Iranian leaders. They said we got to be careful. And this was actually something that they did during the visit, Trump's visit to to Saudi Arabia. And ultimately, this is where we find ourselves today, having to deal with this nonsense. So will World War III start? It could start. It could. But we don't want to go there. We don't want to go there.
Laden quadcopters were launched. These drones played distinct roles. FPV drones were the first to strike, hurtling toward air defense systems in suicide attacks, while the quadcopters followed up with targeted blasts to finish the job. Together, they neutralized critical SAM sites, including advanced S-300 batteries, effectively blinding Iran's air defense grid.
I went from this to this in it.
So let's just avoid that ad. And we kind of see exactly what's happening here. And as I move on to the next story, this is something that Benjamin Netanyahu's going on with an interview on ABC News. And this is an exclusive interview that came out yesterday. And the talking points are very important, very interesting. Where he's talking about the end of the war starts with the elimination of the Islamic Republic leader, the assassination attempt at, he also might mention in this clip that I'm going to play, the assassination attempt on the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin. A missile was shot at his bedroom window. He was not home at the time, but there has been multiple attempts on his life in order to take him away from power, because thus far has Benjamin Netanyahu done the really most of the wild things that the Likud party, well, I don't know if it's the Likud party, I can't remember what the other party is, but the prior prime minister, there was this, again, the politics, I really not too versed on that, but otherwise what Benjamin has been doing has been very controversial. Of course, the things that happen in Gaza, the things that happen with Hamas, and all the things that people are talking about, there's all these disagreements, all these agreements, whatever it is, and people can disagree or agree. I think what happened on October the 7th was completely outrageous, and Israel was only at that point in time and continuing to defend themselves from the rocket barrages that they continued to see. We're still in this war. They're still in this war. Not we. I'm not an Israeli, but they are still involved in this war. And so they severely dismantled Hezbollah. They severely dismantled Hamas. They dismantled the Yemen Houthis. And now Iran, the one that supplied all of these proxies with the weapons and money and whatever they needed. So let's take a look at Benjamin Netanyahu's response to what exactly is going on with this war.
Well, if the goals could be achieved through negotiations, fine. I said that to the president when I saw him in Washington. That didn't happen in the 2 months of negotiations that President Trump gave them. Right now, they thought that they could get away with it. They found that our very decisive and very precise military action against their nuclear program, against their ballistic missile program, is effective. So now they want to stop it and continue on the side to continue to develop those two means of mass death that are meant to wipe Israel off the map. And this is a battle, that we have to assure is won. If it could be won diplomatically, fine. Frankly, it didn't happen diplomatically, and we had to act because we're not going to put our neck on a nuclear, to a nuclear knife and let them destroy us. We're fighting this larger war against this oppressive regime that has oppressed the Iranian people for 46 years, that has spread mayhem, violence, and terror throughout the Middle East and well beyond. They tried to assassinate President Trump twice. They tried to kill me twice.
Yep.
They actually had their proxies shoot a drone right into my bedroom window. They're targeting every one of our ministers, key ministers, for death. So they speak a good line, but they don't walk the walk. And again, we have to remove that threat. And I think it's a larger battle. It's a battle of civilization against barbarism. This regime is the cult of death. Don't make any mistakes about it. And sometimes, The forces of civilization have to act before it's too late. We did. And we're going to remove those threats against our existence one way or the other. The Jewish people haven't traveled over time this great odyssey of 3,500 years with some of the worst tragedies meted out to any people during their existence. We're not going to have a second Holocaust. We'll do whatever is necessary to prevent that. And President Trump has been a terrific friend and a terrific leader, and I trust his judgment. And we have, together, we know what needs to be done in order to assure that those two twin.
By the way, you say, by the way, those purchase infrastructure supplies were from the U.S., but I actually don't believe it was purchased. I believe we gave it. So there was a 10-year agreement that they have from the U.S. to supply them with munitions and various things that they need over the next 10-year period. And 2026 is their sort of end date of this supplying to Israel. And ultimately, this is why the talks amongst the Israeli government and Americans that are saying that we should not be supplying Israel anymore, or this is the common with the Israeli government. They're saying also that that the U.S. shouldn't be supplying them as well. They're able to do and conduct the things that they want, but they don't want to cut them off right away, because then they're cutting themselves. It's cutting them short. It's cutting them short. So the thing is that it's not fair if we just stop all of the supplies that we'd promised them for the next 10 years. And by 2026, we might see this removal of anything that we're going to be supplying Israel with, any type of technologies. We gave them what they need in order to secure their home. But otherwise, once that ends, where will it go from there? I'm sure they will continue advancing the technologies that we gave them. I believe there is an airplane that they constructed. So they took an airplane that was made in the U.S. and they took it to Israel. They reconstructed it into a way that they were able to utilize during the first Iranian attack, when they took out a lot of key sites and a lot of key infrastructures. And this plane was able to confuse their radars for a period of 3 hours, I believe it was, that they were conducting these strikes.
Threats to our very survival, to the survival and the peace of the world, are removed.
So are you going to target the supreme leader?
Look, we're doing what we need to do. I'm not going to get into the details, but we've targeted their top nuclear scientists. It's basically Hitler's nuclear team. We got them. We still have work to do on other sites. We have targeted their ballistic missile.
Yeah, you say here's the thought, maybe Israel should fight its own wars. I agree. This is their war. This is them. This is their thing. Israel has ties as an ally to Israel. And from what we know about Bible prophecy, there's going to be no backing of Israel during the time of the Ezekiel 38 war. So the nations that surround Israel, they will verbally say that the attack that is being had, that is happening during that time, but nobody's going to step up to help them at all. And so there's going to be a time where we're not even supplying them with anything, or no money, no nothing, no munitions, anything. And so I believe that us getting ourselves involved in any Middle Eastern wars is not a good idea for us at all. So I think it's good that we stay out. However, there is this allyship where we are, as he will say in this video, is that what they're doing to Iran is only helping the safety of the U.S. and other nations, of course, because Iran is known to conduct terror operations, how they continue to do. And guys, I'm so sorry for my dang camera blinking and all the nonsense. It's the Wi-Fi. I just don't know how to fix it. Otherwise, so the stuff that is happening right now is absolutely fascinating to look at and to analyze. And you say this is not biblical Israel. This is Psalm 83. Well, Psalm 83 talks about the fact that the nations will rise up against Israel in order to. I have to go back and look at the actual scripture because I don't want to diminish what it says, but I guess we can go there after, but otherwise, the Ezekiel 38 war that we're talking about here is the leader Gog from the land of Magog comes in and brings about a company of other nations to go in and take plunder, to take loot, and to take a spoil, to take gold and silver, and to really just take Israel for what it has. And the only nations that will verbally, I don't know, defend but not step in is Sheba and Dedan and merchants of Tarshish. So quite interesting there.
Manufacturing facilities. Understand this. You see these bombs. You saw a single bomb. It's a 1-ton bomb, John, dropping on Tel Aviv and other places, killing men, women, and children. They're deliberately targeting our population. We're not doing that. We're targeting their military sites, their nuclear sites, their ballistic missile sites, so they don't have 20,000 of these that no country could survive with. Yeah, they want to continue stringing us along, but there's a limit, because if we don't act now, there won't be a 13th hour. So we have to act. But what I'm saying is that we're not merely protecting ourselves. We're protecting everybody. We're protecting our Arab neighbors, with whom we want to expand the peace, as we did under President Trump's leadership in the Abraham Accords. That will be possible if Iran is defanged. We're also protecting the world. They have ballistic missiles that can now reach deep into Europe and soon could reach the United States. And imagine what this regime that caused death to America every time, that bombed your American embassies, that murdered 241 Marines in Beirut, that killed and injured thousands of American servicemen in Iraq and Afghanistan, that tried to blow up a restaurant in Washington, that burns the American flag. You want these people?
By the way, you say HFN, you say the nations rose up against Israel already and were defeated each time. Yeah, the thing is, anytime that a nation has gone up against Israel, they have been destroyed and they are no longer a nation anyway. So yeah, so you say protecting the world, LOL. If you really think about it, Iran has instituted, or I don't know if instituted is the right word, but has injected into our society during the Biden administration sleeper cells that at any point they could be activated in order to conduct terrorist activity and terrorist actions against the American people. They assimilate with people. They assimilate in everyday life. They'll go to your church. They'll be at your job, whatever the case is. And whenever they're ready to be activated, they will be activated and they will cause severe harm, trying to cause as much destruction as possible before they are ultimately stopped, even if that means deletion. But otherwise, or self-deletion. But otherwise, we've got to be thankful for what's happening here, because we don't want Iran to retaliate or to attack anything of America, because then we're all going to be, in a sense, in danger as well. And we don't have the necessary protections like an Iron Dome. We can intercept missiles and stuff like that, but the technology, of course, is American technology, but it's not the technology that has been developed for Israel like the Iron Dome system. However, in the big, beautiful bill, Trump wants to institute the Golden Dome over America so that we can be protected as Israel is. However, we want to go to the greater lengths to be able to stop intercontinental ballistic, or I don't know if it's ballistic missiles, but they're missiles, intercontinental missiles that will that could be utilized, because I believe China is the one that has built these missiles in order to do this very thing. And that's quite the crazy technology stuff that is being utilized and involved in. Especially we have AI just going so fast in everything. So otherwise, advancing so fast.
To have nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them to your cities? Today it's Tel Aviv, tomorrow it's New York. I understand America first. I don't understand America dead. That's what these people want. They chant death to America. So we're doing something that is in the service of mankind, of humanity, and it's a battle of good against evil. America should and does stand with the good That's what President Trump is.
By the way, you say Trump sent a tweet. Yeah, here's the post. Let me just show you guys, because if you guys haven't seen it, this is it. He says unconditional surrender, and then he says, well, actually, that's not the post. It's going to be this one here. This is going to be the post. It says, Iran should have signed the deal. I told them to sign. What a shame and what a waste of human life. Simply stated, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. Now, this, of course, we saw what happened with what Israel did. They were told, the people of Tehran was told to evacuate, and they've done so. We see the cars leaving in droves in order to remove themselves from Tehran, and thus that's what they've done. And so, of course, being successful in the communication, of course, Trump utilizing the fact that he's able to do this, and is only causing the people of Tehran to be safe, because nobody has anything. Benjamin Netanyahu or Trump or nobody has any beef with the Islamic or the Persian people. It's the beef is with the leaders of Iran, because they're radical in what they do and how they conduct and treat their citizens. It's quite unfortunate, because they will delete them at any bend when they don't succumb to their ruling and just tyranny.
Is doing, and I deeply appreciate his support.
But U.S. officials tell us that
Here we go.
the
Watch
president flatly rejected a plan, an opportunity that the Israelis had to take out the supreme leader. Do you understand his concern? My understanding is his concern is that this would escalate the conflict beyond where it is already.
It's not going to escalate the conflict. It's going to end the conflict. We've had
So let's reiterate that point. He says that it's not going to escalate the conflict. It's going to end the conflict, with regards to what the guy had mentioned, talking about the proposal to eliminate the Ayatollah Khamenei. And so otherwise, yeah, here's the thing though. We have so much, there's so much discussions with regards to the potential regime change, that if Khamenei is removed, what will happen next? We saw the Shah posted a video talking about the fact that he will essentially return. Awaiting my return is what he said, I believe, in the video. And should something else come into play? Should the people of Iran rise up and institute something even better? From what we know about Bible prophecy, Iran is still going to have the same motives to destroy Israel. You say Iran has been 20 minutes away from having a nuclear weapon for 30 years now. Yeah, that's the thing. They already have the enriched uranium in order to make the bombs. They've had the enriched uranium in order to make 9 nuclear weapons. And so it's probably just the I don't know, the capability that they don't have to make the actual physical thing, in the sense the shell casing and everything. I don't know all of the I don't know, the intricacies of creating a nuclear weapon. I don't know any of that stuff. However, say you're talking about wiping out the leaders of a sovereign nation. This is unhinged behavior. Blessed are the peacemakers, not those who resort to violence. I never said that this should be something that we should do. This is just what I'm telling is in the talks of the Trump administration, that there's talks of potentially. I mean, Trump has said vocally or verbally, and in his posts, and I believe in videos and interviews, that no to an assassination, because Iran technically hasn't done anything to cause Israel to do any of that. However, they are moving strike force into position in order for them to destroy their Fordow nuclear facility that is the most heavily fortified. And so that's the situation we're looking at right now. The B-32 stealth bomber that they're looking to send, that they have already sent into position. They've said that they are in complete control of the Iranian airspace. Thus, this is what we have. This is where we are. This is what it is. So it says, so let me see if it says, tell me if Iran has a nuclear weapon. If Iran has nuclear weapons, do you really think it's a good idea for America to get involved? No, they actually don't have nuclear weapons yet. They have the enriched uranium in order to purified enriched uranium in order to create at least nine nuclear bombs. And they had the nuclear scientists. So the thing is that they've always been, I don't know, not deterred, but they've always been again, I think it's kind of funny that they've always been, as you said, YouTube punk, that they've had, I don't know, 20 minutes away from them making a nuclear bomb. But they've already had the ingredients in order to make it. It's just the matter of making it. I'm not sure what the process is, again, as to what happens once they have the fissionable, uranium. What happens at that point? I just don't know. I'm sure AI wouldn't tell you because obviously that's classified information. I don't know. This is what happened to the nuclear weapons in South Africa had. There was a nation that actually dismantled or got rid of all of their nuclear weapons. I can't remember which nation that was. Say setting fighter jets and bombers involves U.S. in foreign war. Remember what the founding fathers said about getting involved in these foreign entanglements. Tell me, remind me, what did they say? I'm not saying I'm for it. I'm saying we shouldn't be involved. So,
century of conflict spread by this regime that terrorizes everyone in the Middle East, has bombed the Aramco oil fields in Saudi Arabia, is spreading terrorism and subversion and sabotage everywhere. That's the forever war is what Iran wants. And they're bringing us to the brink of nuclear war. In fact, what Israel is doing is preventing this, bringing an end to this aggression. And we can only do so by standing up to the forces of evil. Look, democracies have had to learn this lesson. You know, they faced a tyrannical regime, a radical, fanatic regime. For 40 years, I've been saying, actually 3 years after the establishment of this radical Islamist Ayatollah regime in Tehran, I said that the greatest danger, not only to the survival of my country, but to the peace of the world, is Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons. And they are on the brink of achieving that. So imagine what they're doing now without nuclear weapons. Chanting death to America without nuclear weapons. Imagine what will happen if they had nuclear weapons and the ICBMs, the intercontinental ballistic missiles, to deliver it to every place on Earth. We're preventing the most terrific war imaginable, and we're bringing peace to the Middle East. And I believe that after our action, we're going to be able to bring the Middle East to new heights that nobody even imagined. You know, make the Middle East great again. Make it truly great. Expand the peace with the Abraham Accords. Expand them beyond our belief and imagination. Have trade routes, communication routes, energy routes. Have trade, tourism between Israel and...
Here's the thing about the Iranians, at least the current regime. If they say they're going to do something, you best believe that they're going to do that thing. Because they've been known to say something and then act upon that. They've said continually that they want to eliminate the Jewish race and the Israeli state, the country in total. Wipe it off the face of the earth. And they've been in constant attack against them to prevent them from being a nation, a people. And they will go out of their way to do and conduct all that they can to destroy all the Jews anywhere they are. Doesn't matter where they are. They're taking over Europe right now. They are embedding themselves in America, in Texas. So this is something that we need to take seriously. They say they're going to do something, they are most certainly going to do that thing. So this is not something that we can take light. No pun intended with the explosion sound effect.
Our Arab neighbors, just as we've done under the Abraham Accords, all of that will be possible if we take away, defang Iran from its capacity to threaten
By the way, how is that fear mongering when this is exactly what's happening? Wild.
everyone, not only us with our existence, but the regimes and our Arab neighbors and everyone else. This will bring the peace that we all hope for. And this will bring also the assurance of survival and a future for Israel and everyone else.
So it sounds to me like you're saying you disagreed with President Trump on this, saying that taking out the supreme leader would be a mistake. What else would you like from the United States? I mean, the United States could provide.
Well, John, I wouldn't rush to conclusions. Yeah.
Well, he said that it would escalate the conflict. You said it wouldn't. And now I'm asking you, what more would you like from President Trump, from the United States here? Do you expect that the U.S. Air Force will help you take out that facility in Fordo?
We've gotten tremendous help from President Trump. American pilots are shooting down drones that are aimed at our cities, along with our pilots. We have 2 THAAD batteries in Israel that are helping bring down these murderous missiles. We have Aegis ships that are helping us, and it's deeply appreciated. As far as what else America will do, that's up to President Trump. He will do what's in the best interest of the United States. But it's important to understand that we deeply appreciate his help and the help and the support of the great majority of the American people, because they understand what we're fighting against. We're fighting against a regime that hates us both, that is trying to assassinate us both, that is trying to bring death and destruction throughout the Middle East and to the world. And sometimes you have to take a stand. You take a stand with the good against evil, and that's precisely what America is doing under President Trump. It's also bringing freedom, possibility of freedom, to the people of Iran, the long-suffering, brilliant people of Iran. And they're murdering their women. You remember that brave woman who was shot to death, left to bleed to death on the sidewalk in Iran because she uncovered her hair. She didn't cover her hair. Well, I have a woman pilot in my staff who worked on my staff, who's now flying over the skies of Tehran. We control the skies of Tehran. And she's trying to do the things that will prevent this regime from continuing this horrible subjugation of the Iranian people and the rest of the neighborhood, the rest of the world. That's the difference. We're fighting for freedom, our own survival, our own freedom, but also for the freedom of everyone else.
Let me ask you, your defense minister, Israel Katz, said that if the Iranians continue to target Israeli civilians, that, quote, Tehran will burn. What does that mean?
Well, I think he made it clear, because it wasn't clear, and he clarified that what we're doing is targeting regime sites, nuclear sites, military sites, and ballistic missile sites that are embedded in Tehran. Our pilots are very precise. So unlike the Iranian criminal regime, we're telling the people, leave the zone of battle so that you're not hurt. And in fact, they are leaving, and that's important. And they're evacuating their homes, and that's because of the mad fanaticism, this anti-Semitic mad fanaticism of the Iranian supreme leader. He's like a modern Hitler. He just will not stop. But we're going to make sure that he doesn't have the means to carry out his threats.
And let me ask you one more thing. You mentioned the support of the American people. There are some prominent supporters of President Trump who say that the United States should not be involved at all. Let me give you, for example, Tucker Carlson, of course, has been close to President Trump for quite some time, speaks to him frequently. He said the United States...
So you say, so is the U.S. going to be in this war? I believe they're going to help Israel with conducting this operation. So far, again, if nobody has heard it yet, I've been repeating it quite a bit, but otherwise they're saying that their strike force is in position ready to strike the Fordow nuclear plant, nuclear enrichment plant. So otherwise, what will this do? We don't know. We don't know. The implications of this could be, deep. Because otherwise, we have... What could happen after that? I'd like to know your guys' thoughts, really. I really would. Because this is such a deeply involved, so much could happen. So many things that we don't even know just could happen. But otherwise, there's just all these theories being put out there.
Should not at any level
We just don't want to get involved in the replacement of their government.
participate in war with Iran. No funding, no American weapons, no troops on the ground. There is another option. Drop Israel, let them fight their own wars. What do you say to those supporters of President Trump, some of his supporters, who say the United States should not be involved in any way?
We're not just fighting our enemy, we're fighting your enemy. For God's sake, they chant, death to Israel, death to America. We're simply on their way. And this could reach America soon. I mean, to have these mad mullahs who are committed to destroying us in order to destroy you, to say that they should have nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles to deliver them to you, and to say that that's not your interest. Well, we're fighting this war. We're taking the action. America is supporting us in defense, deeply, deeply appreciated. But this is a threat to the entire world. It's a threat to Israel, as I said, to our Arab neighbors, to Europe, to America. They chant death to America. It's though this is not your business. This is not myopia. This is utter blindness. I mean, sometimes you have to take a stand against evil. And that's what the American people instinctively understand, most of them, I have to say. And that's what President Trump understands. We cannot let that happen. We're certainly going to protect ourselves. But in so doing, John, we're protecting everyone else. And we appreciate, deeply appreciate, the help we're getting from the United States of America under President Trump's leadership.
Now, his words regards to, they chant this all the time. This is what they say. This is the common theme amongst the Iranian regime and why they want to destroy the state of Israel, but not only the state of Israel, why they want to destroy America. It's in their charter. Says our war is not a domestic war. We have a plan to defeat the world powers. We are planning to break the United States, Israel, and their partners. Our ground forces need to cleanse the world from their filthiness and from their existence. The Zionist regime, by the way, YouTube Punk, I remember you said something about the translation. How do we know it's accurate? We would just look at all the comments. Oh, there they are. All the comments with regard. How do I get there? All the comments with regards to the video, and you'd see that anybody could easily fact check the fact of what they're actually saying. And it'd be the same exact thing. And even then, the Arabic language would be even harsher. The Zionist regime is the root of corruption, war, and disputes. The Zionist regime is a dangerous cancer in the region that needs to be uprooted and banished. Khomeini is the leader. Death to the opponents of the regime. Death to the USA. Death to the United Kingdom. Death to the hypocrites and the heretics. Death to Israel. Death to Israel. Israel has no other choice. I played this video the last time and really got some people upset. It really did. But otherwise, that's the enemy that we have right in front of us. So the difficulty that Trump is facing right now is, what does he do? Does he help Iran? Or does he help Iran? Does he help Israel? Or does he not get involved at all? And let's get a poll going, because I think this is going to be great. And we'll get the tallies up. Here we go. All right. Let's see your guys' polls here. And let's see exactly what. So far, 100% no. Okay. All right, it's going. All right, say Israel is lazy. They need to fight their own battles. I don't think they're lazy. They've been at it since October the 7th of 2023. They've been going hard. They have been, and I have been lagging. So they have been ultimately fighting this war on their own. They had multiple war fronts, fighting Hamas, fighting Hezbollah, fighting the Yemen Houthis, and just hate from around the world. So although it would help much, it would much help for Israel if USA is involved. I think USA shouldn't be directly involved. Yeah. I think they need to get it. I think we're kind of forced to be involved in some way or shape or form. Israel, the U.S. is known as, it's so funny. I think, it's bottlenecking, but otherwise, yeah, here we go. Let's check this video out.
Arabia has also criticized Israel, as has Turkey, but Iran does appear almost completely diplomatically isolated. No countries seemingly willing to step forward and help the Islamic regime. We're joined by Dalia Ziada. She's an Egyptian scholar and senior fellow at the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs. Dalia, just talk us through the various efforts, if you would, by Arab countries, and what does this tell us about how friendless this regime is now?
Thank you, Laura. And first of all, I would like to say I, for one person from the Arab and Muslim community, I pray for your safety and I pray for the success of the IDF and the Mossad in their mission to rid us of the Iranian regime, which has been wreaking havoc all over the region in Arab countries and causing a lot of sufferings to Arab countries under the flag of, or under the claim that they are doing this in fight for Islam or for Al-Aqsa Mosque or for the Palestinians.
By the way, notice how they're not striking the Dome of the Rock. They are striking, however, Tel Aviv and other parts of Israel, because of course they don't want to strike the Dome of the Rock. That wouldn't be good. The Dome of the Rock is currently under the Jordanian control, but otherwise, so far the votes are 43 as of right now. If you guys want to continue to vote in that poll, 44 votes says 30% yes, the U.S. shouldn't get involved in the Middle Eastern quagmire. 70% no. Wow, interesting. We've got a 40 difference here. Yeah, so it's going to keep going, but otherwise, this is a sticky situation that we've gotten ourselves in, and I think the Trump administration is going to be forced to get involved in some way, shape, or form.
All this nonsense, and actually, I'm not the only person. Many people in the Arab world today agree with that, and they understand that Iran is our real enemy, and it's not only the real enemy for Arabs, but also for the United States and for the whole Western world. Keeping all that in mind, we have also to understand that the positions of the Arab governments, Arab states, Arab leaders is a bit different. They cannot just go out and express this openly. They have to play for their audience. They have to play the show by making such statements, blaming Israel as usual, as they always love to do, blaming Israel for things, for starting a problem in the region or so, while actually what Israel is doing is solving a problem, including a problem that was irritating them for 2 decades, and they were not able to do anything with it. The Iranian militia spread all over the region, from Lebanon to Yemen to Syria and Iraq. We're not hurting anyone other than the Arab people, pushing millions of them to leave their home countries and causing suffering in places like Yemen, famine and people being killed. So Arab leaders understand that. However, they have to make such statements, but if you see in all of their statements, they did not show any support to Iran. Yes, they blame Israel's actions as usual, but they did not show support to Iran. Actually, I can argue they quietly praying for for Israel's success. They are quietly praying for Israel's success in ridding the region of the Iranian regime, and I think somehow also they are willing to help. We saw Jordan, for example, intervening in many incidents in intercepting missiles. There are also reports about Saudi Arabia creating like missile defense or stationing missile defense systems around Mecca and Medina. So in general, I mean, Arab countries, especially in the Gulf region, they are very much on the side of Israel in this war, except that they cannot just go public and say this. One last observation is actually the situation in Egypt, and it's so surprising that Egypt, despite its relationship or its natural alliance with the Sunni Muslim Arab countries like Saudi Arabia, for example, it's now taking a very strong stance in support of Iran and openly supporting Iran, not only blaming Israel. And I think this has very much to do with the Qatar influence that, we have been discussing on this show several times. The growing Qatar influence inside Egypt, and actually at the time Qatar is playing it like not making public statements, they are using Egypt.
They've been pretty discreet.
By the way, this is what we see from the butcher of Tehran who recently died in a plane crash. This is some of the things that the people of Iran face because of the radical stuff that he's done. This is the Iranian president Ibrahim Raisi, who died in an apparent helicopter crash in the East Azerbaijan. Oh, Azerbaijan, right? Not Iranian terrain, but this is the province of the country. Various human rights groups have nicknamed as the butcher of Tehran. Was the reason for, what is the reason for this? What is what has the deceased president done to earn the notorious title? It says Raisi began his career after the Islamic Revolution of 1979 that overthrew the Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. At the time the Iran-Iraq War ended in 1988, he had been appointed as the deputy prosecutor of the Revolutionary Court of Iran. He was the youngest of the four member panel called informally as the Death Commissions. The commissions consisted of religious scholars, intelligence officials, and other members. The then supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini, issued a fatwa or a religious judicial decree ordering the execution of political prisoners, which included the communists of those who were the enemies of God. This, according to various estimates, resulted in the execution of thousands of people. According to many estimates, at least 30,000 people were killed across Iran. According to the U.S. Institute of Peace, 4,000 to 5,000 people were executed. Most of these executions were pronounced within minutes after the trial began, going against the principles of natural justice and rule of law. Many of these persecuted individuals were members of the People's Mujahideen organization of Iran. Now it says there should be a story here. It says, this is one of the stories that was quite wild during the time. This was President Raisi won the election and was appointed as the president of Islamic Republic in 2021. His old habits continued during his presidency tenure. In 2022, Mahsa Amini, a young woman in her 20s, allegedly died in police custody for violating a dress code which required the women to wear headscarves. The new government had introduced a dress and morality code. This alleged killing resulted in mass protests by women and men alike, which Iran had not seen in the recent past. It is expected that more than 500 protesters were killed and many others were made to disappear. So that's who the Iranian people are dealing with. It's not a light thing. It really isn't. And so what she's saying is only validating the claim that this is wild. So let's take a look at a little bit of this last information before we close out here.
I think they're clearly looking now at real live options for U.S. intervention on Israel's side to go after these Iranian nuclear sites, particularly that deepest, most important nuclear uranium enrichment site that the Iranians have at Fordow, built several hundred feet under the ground, under reinforced concrete, that only U.S. bunker busting bombs can.
Yeah, so you said the 1953 CIA backed coup in Iran, which overthrew the democratically elected government, the Prime Minister Mohammed. Yes, this is what I was talking about. The fact that the U.S. was involved in regime change, where they put in the Islamic Republic of Iran, and they didn't go so well for the people of Iran. This is what they're facing today.
Get to delivered by U.S. strategic bombers that Israel doesn't have. There's also a need. Israel's over the skies of Iran constantly, destroying missiles, destroying other nuclear sites, destroying military leadership sites. They have a lot of planes in the air, a long distance from Israel to sustain that kind of pace of operations. They could really use some advanced U.S. aerial refueling capabilities, probably over the skies of Iraq, that Israel also doesn't have, that would dramatically enhance its ability to keep its Air Force in the air 24/7.
It's very interesting because we continue to hear some of those assets being moved into the region. And this is the graphic from Fox that we are seeing just all around there in the Mediterranean, the Red Sea, just the amount of force, the posture in which the United States continues to have in that region. They're continuing to call it a defensive posture. When will it look offensive? And can you describe maybe what we're seeing in terms of just the amount there in the region?
Yeah, no, it's already been several months, Andy, that the president has been, as he engages in these negotiations to coerce Iran into making a deal and giving up its nuclear program peacefully. He's been building up a very credible military deterrent in the region. And now, as we get closer to this decision to actually enter the fray on Israel's side to really try and finish this job in a decisive manner, the president's only now adding new increments of force, new increments of defensive and, importantly, offensive firepower to be ready for anything.
I want to ask you what a potential strike would look like. You mentioned Fordow. That would be the nuclear site that is very hard to get at. What would a strike potentially look like? Is that the best option that you potentially think could happen?
I think it's the most important contribution the United States can make. It's the one thing that, even as ingenious as the Israeli Defense Forces are, presents real serious challenges to them. Could be done much more effectively. That deep enrichment site at Fordow by the United States, by several B-2 bombers carrying this massive ordnance penetrators, 30,000-pound bunker-busting bombs that were built specifically for this mission to penetrate that mountain at Fordow. That would get the job done quickest. Hopefully, it would be a one and done. And then the Israeli Air Force would continue their mission to further degrade the rest of Iran's nuclear and missile infrastructure. But we can't just assume that the Iranians are going to just accept a blow and move to the sidelines. We've got to be prepared for everything, including them coming after a lot of our forces in the region that are based both in Iraq and Syria and places around the Persian Gulf. We already see a lot of U.S. naval ships beginning to move out of the base in Manama, Bahrain, moving out, dispersing into the Persian Gulf to be in a safer defensive posture.
Yeah, and President Trump was asked aboard Air Force One last night about that, the potential
So here's an interesting post here. I wanted to actually look at this article that I just came across. I'm not sure when this was posted. Let's see. This was yesterday. It says, Israel, we are hitting Fordow with or without U.S. bunker busters. Wow, interesting. So it says Israel's national security advisor said Tuesday that Israel will not stop fighting the war before it has damaged Iran's Fordow nuclear facility, which is buried deep within a mountain. It says this is the Times of Israel that reported. It says Israel's operation against Iran will not end without damaging the Fordow nuclear facility promises national security advisor in an interview with Channel 12. This is a Israeli news channel. It says the site, 90 meters, 295 feet underground, houses thousands of centrifuges to enrich uranium. It says Israel's conventional munitions can't reach that deep, and it would take the U.S. joining the fight to knock it out from the air. I don't know if the U.S. will join, says Hein-Gebi, adding that Israel talking to the U.S. continually, but is not trying to convince them. Interesting. And says conventional wisdom holds that Israel cannot by itself destroy Fordow because doing so would require bunker-busting bombs that could penetrate and explode at depth. Only the U.S. has them. And Israel lacks strategic bombers that would be necessary to carry such bombs to their targets. However, both Israel and the U.S. might prefer that the Americans stay out of the war. Interesting. However, both, it says, and Israel has other means. Of course, Israel will try to conduct whatever they possibly can in order to destroy their Fordow, whatever they might use. I'm not sure. That's going to be wild. It says the IDF on Tuesday said that it has a ready plan for striking Iran's underground Fordow nuclear facility at the moment that the political echelon gives the order. It says since the IDF lacks a mega 3,000-pound bunker buster bomb, which the U.S. possesses, Israel has been trying to convince Washington to take out the facility. So earlier it says, this is what the Jerusalem Post said, earlier says that they're not trying to convince them. So what is it? Are we convincing them or are we not trying to convince them? However, despite lacking that bomb, the Air Force has other techniques for damaging or causing cave-ins at Fordow, such as repeatedly dropping 5,000 pound or 2,000 pound bombs over and over again in the same spots, which of course will continue to basically dig down until they're able to get to that point. And you're saying if I'm doing call-ins tonight, I don't know. I'm not sure. Does anybody want to call in and share their thoughts? Of course, I want to make sure that you guys stay on topic. We're not going to be talking about anything else because this is what is the topic that I'm going over, the topic that I've had prepared. So otherwise, it says Israel has said that it expects to fight for 1 or 2 more weeks to achieve its objectives, which include destroying Iran's ballistic missile capabilities, which as well as its nuclear enrichment and weapons program. There is little that Iran can do to stop Israel. Now, Trump did mention that there are many plans in place to defeat what is going on in this war, in this scenario. So it says, since the Israeli Air Force has knocked out Iran's air defenses and its fighter jets are operating with complete freedom above Iranian airspace around the clock. Now, of course, Trump said that the Iranian airspace is controlled by the U.S. at the moment, completely controlled. So otherwise, that was an interesting clip an article that I wanted to do. And so interesting there. You said Charles is always believing what Israel says, no matter how many times they lie. What do they lie about? When it comes to defending their own people, how are they lying? When it comes to the destruction that they're going to do in order to defend their own citizens, would you not want America to do the same if they had an enemy in that manner? Well, they kind of do, right? Iran is an enemy of the U.S. We're known as the big Satan, if you didn't know. And Israel, the little Satan. Why that is? Because we're a threat. We're a threat to their regime. We're a threat to their religion. So, however, the polls as of late, 113 votes should the U.S. get involved in the Middle Eastern quagmire. 27% say yes, 73% say no. As the poll ends, that's what we got. So otherwise, final thoughts on the matter. Ultimately, I feel like given the current position of what the U.S. has said, being that they moved strike forces into Iran, that they're controlling the airspace, Iran is begging for mercy, begging to make deals. Trump has said that the deal's off the table. Benjamin Netanyahu has said there's deals off the table. Will the U.S. strike? Will the U.S. aid Israel in striking? That is the question. That is the question. I think that we should ultimately weigh our options, use wisdom, and pray that this doesn't get us into deeper, stickier mess. So otherwise, this is going to be quite the insane thing to look at in the coming weeks, in the coming months. The implications after all of this is sort of after the fog of war settles. Say Iran is not begging for anything in the winning position. Well, they're begging for deals with Trump. They're begging the Arab nations that are allied with the U.S. to make deals with Trump. So I don't understand what you're saying is that Iran's not begging for anything. They've lost all, I mean, if not almost all of they've set them back years for their nuclear program. Israel destroyed and deleted a lot of their facilities. They deleted their nuclear scientists, and they will continue going. By the way, equally yoked is not with regards to am I yoked or not, like muscularly built. It's with regards to equally yoked with the word of God. That's why it's equally yoked, not because I'm yoked out. I mean, I could flex if I want. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that. Nonsense. Knock it off. So otherwise, I'd like to know your guys' final thoughts. Comment. Let me know. Trump is saying China is begging for deals too. Yeah, there was a post. I actually just saw it. I wanted to. I mean, we're not talking about China, but otherwise, there's apparently deals that are in waiting to happen, waiting to go through. According to Xi Jinping, that they need to just solidify the deal and everything. Just looking at your comments here, guys. Say, I'm in Africa. I don't know what Iran has, but I remember that the war started on the lies of weapons of mass destruction. None were found. In the end, none were found, but the destruction goes on. Make a deal, no more war, just aid and medicine for everyone. Man, if they could only make the deal. But that's the problem. That's the problem with Iran is anytime that they've said that even their proxies have said it as well. When they make ceasefire deals, they just break them. They just go on shooting more rockets into Israel. There has never been a ceasefire that ever stuck. Iraq and Iran are two separate countries. Yes, they are. So that's what we're facing today, guys. We're facing a quagmire. In other words, a difficult situation which is hard to escape. That's the definition of a quagmire. How do we escape this? Where do we go on from here? But I think with all this doom and gloom talk, we need to understand that God has a purpose for all of this. Because we want to make sure that we ask for the peace of God that passes all understanding. Lastly, when we look at Matthew 24, this is something that I want to point out that's very important, because so much stuff is going to happen in the coming, weeks and months. You say Iran's constitution does not explicitly call for violent destruction of the U.S. Look at the charter, the Islamic charter. Here we go. It talks about the fact that Matthew 24:1. How is this? Why is this like this? Oh, I see. Anyway, so here, let's, that's fine. So here we go. It says, take heed that no one deceives you. So this is with regards to the disciples asking him privately, saying, tell us when these things will be and what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age. Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear, and this is the important, you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. What are we hearing now? Wars and rumors of wars. We've heard that for the last decade. Wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation. The word there is ethnos, nation, ethnos, that's ethnicities. We see that today. And kingdom against kingdom. And there will be famines, pestilence, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you. This is with regards to those who follow Christ. And you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended and will betray one another and will hate one another. Then many false prophets. Why is it not showing? Boy, it's not showing you my software. There we go. And many will be offended to betray another and hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And because lawlessness will abound, which is happening today, the love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. And the gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world and witnessed to all the nations. And the end will come. Guys, Jesus says, behold, I have overcome the world. So ask him for the peace that surpasses all understanding. You say the Bible says the Israeli are the chosen people. The Jews are the chosen people. This is a false Bible because Chinese are real God's chosen people. Interesting. I don't know where you get that idea from. The Chinese Communist Party has altered the Bible in order to claim that the Chinese Communist Party is the savior of the Chinese people. They don't want anybody to own any type of Bibles. But otherwise, guys, thank you so much for being here on this show. And this live stream has been fun. It has been wild to look at all the news. We're going to be keeping you updated on this specific topic of Israel and Iran. There is so much happening, and we need to pray for the civilians that are ultimately in harm's way to be casualties